When you and I decide to move portions of our IT infrastructure or services or applications to the cloud, what are some concrete successful deployment steps that we can engage in? Now, in this nugget, I'll give you the steps, of course, and we'll be dealing with these steps in greater detail in future nuggets. But before we get into those steps, I just want to quickly dispel some of the myths surrounding cloud that you may have heard and that you may fall victim to. The first one is that there is a single good level of service of cloud infrastructure that you can implement. So there is no one size fits all. That's what we have to realize. There are so many different cloud options for us today, so many different levels of service that we can provide our customers with cloud. There is really no one size fits all. We need to keep that in mind. Another myth, and you've heard me mention this, my friend mentioned this, that is the vice president of a large company. He mentioned it. You probably remember that story. And that was that when we go to cloud, we eliminate all of our internal IT staff. We are outsourcing completely and we don't need IT anymore in-house, and we know that is clearly a myth. Something else that we have to realize is that many people feel like cloud is just much ado about nothing, that we can safely ignore cloud technologies in our organization today. I hope from the nuggets that we've covered so far, you know that that's not true. And finally, a huge myth is that when we move to cloud technologies, we are sacrificing security. That no longer is our stuff going to achieve great levels of security. We know this not only is not true, but we know many times if we adopt cloud properly, that security in our organization will be much enhanced. Now, here's 5 key steps that could really allow us to implement cloud in a successful manner. The first one, and I'm super passionate about this one, is that wouldn't it be a great idea to take a real low risk application? And what we mean by low risk app is something that's not going to be all that mission critical for our organization. And let's do a pilot with that app. This will really help us to assess what we call our cloud readiness. In fact, it's not a terrible idea to make a cloud readiness assessment a formal step in our deployment of cloud technologies. The next thing we can do, speaking of deployment, is really sit down and decide what type of as a service model are we going to implement and what deployment style will we do. Are we doing private cloud? Are we doing public cloud? So often today we know we'll engage in hybrid cloud technologies. So we need to make those determinations as part of these steps. We also need to think about the cloud provider's roles and responsibilities. We'll talk more about that in an upcoming nugget, of course, but what roles exist? Let's say we're moving to public cloud. What kind of support roles exist up there that we'll be interacting with? And oftentimes, this comes down to the money that we're willing to spend on cloud. Since different levels of service are going to be available through a subscription model, we need to decide just how much of that we need to take advantage of. We need to perform a risk assessment for our moving to the cloud. Aspects of the risk assessment that we'll continuously do is looking at things like the mean time to recovery. How long would it take for us to get all of our data back up and available should there be issues with our cloud technologies? From a security perspective, maybe we'll engage in penetration testing frequently and periodically against the cloud resources to make sure that the security is that level that we need. By the way, when it comes to pen testing, if you want more information on technologies like this regarding security, I would highly recommend that you check out the Security Plus course here at CBT Nuggets, taught by my good friend Keith Barker. From an information technology perspective, we need to think about the roles and skills in our organization's IT department and what changes this move or partial move to the cloud is going to bring. We know that a move to the cloud won't eliminate our IT department, but it sure could change the roles and responsibilities inside it. So that is another key deployment step. So successful deployment steps exist for us to consider before we run right out and plow into the cloud. We know they were 5-fold. doing a low risk application for a pilot, selecting carefully the cloud service model and deployment style we'll use, making sure we understand the cloud provider's roles and responsibilities, performing risk assessment steps, and really taking a tough look at our own IT department and what roles and skill changes will occur inside there. I hope you found this informative, and I'd like to thank you for viewing.